Good morning, everyone. This is Robert T. Green, the CEO of Pre-Post Game, also known as the Players Rep. It'll educate, empower, and protect the athletes and the family's best interests alone. We're doing this video this morning talking about players opting out, and for the we want to play crowd who essentially is trying to ask the questions about them opting back in. So let me be the first one to tell you, as a Players Rep, the majority and the smart athletes will never opt back in. They have absolutely zero business opting back in, simply because the realities of where things stand now pertaining to the pandemic, pertaining to their future as a professional athlete, the realities of how short a professional career is, specifically talking about football, to play 8 games in a pandemic when we know that the universities and we know that the coaches and the athletic departments that I put out the other day have not been following the so-called protocols that, one, these universities don't want to tell you as the family and as the actual athlete and as the world what's actually going on pertaining to their actual protocols. So to say that they're following all the protocols and not giving specific guidelines to hold them to account for is, again, egregious at best. When you're talking about the most unrepresented population in the workforce in America, that is the actual student athlete, because this is not about students. If it was, then campuses such as Michigan State that basically sent everyone home, even in Grand Valley State and in the Midwest where the coronavirus cases and death cases are going up exponentially, they would not be basically telling players and people, just in general, students, to stay in place as we speak right now. But we want to play. The fact that the Big Ten, led by the person that the leader of the herd mentality, leader in chief, basically went out there and said that these players should go out there and play, also said that literally that this virus will go away in one day and disappear, has not. We've already had one student athlete die through coronavirus complications already, Mr. Jermaine Stevens, but yet now we're talking about, for money, dollars, off the back of unpaid, uneducated labor, that the ones that have opted out, that stand to make millions of dollars, should come back on a campus full of COVID and risk injury without being paid, without these universities actually that made billions off their back paying adequate insurance policies to actually protect their future earnings. But they should just come back because those same fans who are now a bioweapon, who refuse to wear masks, want them to. Yeah, that was a mouthful. Trust the facts, not the process. No, these players will not be coming back. But the main point and key you should know and understand, that with the media at large, I want you guys to know and understand that the majority of the first round, second round, third round picks that will be coming out in the 2021 NFL draft class have already opted out. The ones that remain are the ones that are under that stranglehold in the ACC and the SEC, particularly when it comes to Clemson and particularly when it comes to Alabama. The South and how they operate when it comes to controlling the kids' interests and jeopardizing their future. Look no further than Tonga Tagovailoa from last year. Those same kids don't realize what happened last year with Alabama, with them not having an insurance policy, Tua that is, and the injury that he got. Now you can willing to play in the pandemic. You guys should know, and families, if you're watching this and you share this video, you should understand, if you get COVID-19 during the NFL draft process as you transition, if you get it during a time, say, before the end of this season, and say you're trying to go to the combine, if you get COVID, the NFL is not bringing you in. Just the facts, not the process. If you're willing to play this season in exchange for aluminum ring and hat and T-shirt and risk the biggest interview of your career, which is the NFL draft process, again, you might miss the Senior Bowl. You might miss this other All-Star game for playing with these universities that are not keeping you safe, that are not properly recording. You will have COVID, and you basically, because the school is not taking the proper testing and reporting as led by their leader of herd mentality, then once you get to the place where you're going to be really tested in the combine, they're going to test you, and then when they find out, they're going to send you home. Those thoughts and prayers for those fan bases and those coaches are not going to be sufficient to cover those losses of millions that you're going to have. That's the facts, not the process. So for players like Nick Bosa, who got injured a couple years ago, did not return to Ohio State, became the #2 overall pick, a Pro Bowl in his first year. for all those people who are saying they need to develop, and again, guys like Todd McShay, who has no business worrying about what kids sign with agents and talking about what the NCAA should let them back in school. How about you do this, Todd, since you're so concerned about them coming back to school? I don't know whether you're an analyst, whether you're a reporter, sideline reporter. You have so many jobs. It reminds me of like a sports. Like, what concern do you have about the kids that left? If they, as a prognostic, same guys you already said they will be top 5, top 50 this year, why would they return to school? How does that make? But yet you think they should return. Well, you already said that top 15, top 20. Why should they return? Pay the players. No pay. No. Now, I take great pride in saying 3 to 4 years ago with this about the bowl games, about how a football player pertaining to an actual car and using the likeness of a Lamborghini in the wintertime. If a car goes 100 miles in the cold and it's 10 degrees, you try to go 100 miles an hour away. How can you say that these athletes are basically being covered and from their health and safety perspective when it comes to football? We know that these campuses, these schools, these coaches, these programs are skipping practice left and right. They're not playing with their full amount of players all the time because they still getting COVID. They still being isolated. But it was just that 3 months ago where the same conference said that we want you to sign this pledge when it happened to be a legal waiver. So now, 3 months later, we're supposed to trust the fact that you're now going to report properly about COVID testing? You know, where the Midwest right now pertaining to Michigan and Iowa and even Wisconsin, the numbers of cases are going up. And as they're going up right now, specifically in that actual area, you're asking future millionaires to risk all of that to come back and play an 8-game schedule to pay your bills, to pay the university's bills, to basically fund a community such as Iowa that's built in racism under Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz. Trust the facts, not the process. I say no. So again, for the we want to play crowd, your question about if the players going to come back and opt back in, no. Not if they smart. Not if they got the common sense that God gave them. But more importantly, for the future athletes, understanding that those that were sophomores going into their junior year before COVID came in, and you still, without playing for that coach, without playing for that university, without playing for that fan base that goes into your DMs, goes into your parents' DMs and call you all type of racial names and epithets, again, because you didn't do what they wanted you to do. You will be okay. They do not matter. They not need to play for the coach. They do not need to play the bowl game. They do not need to opt back in. They don't need that to do what you asked them to do. They need to do what's best for them and their family in their best interests alone. Again, my name is Robert T. Green, the CEO of Pre-Post Game, and educate, empower, and protect the athletes and families' best interests alone. So there's to answer your question. All players in the 2020 class should opt out. Come back, do it in next year when these schools and these coaches and these programs have the proper, adequate safety protocols in place to ensure your health and safety. God be well, be blessed, and have a great day.